For decades, Americans have watched Bob Barker, The Price is Right, and Barker's Beauties. The model's made famous by funny skits and bubbly personalities, but according to Holly Hallstrom, behind the scenes was not all fun and games. The former Barker beauty filed suit against Barker for weight discrimination some 9 years ago. The case was settled last week. Holly Hallstrom, good morning.
Hi, Ann. Thank you.
This was such a dream come true, it seemed, for you. I mean, this job itself. You were a Barker beauty from, what, 1977 to 1995. It was a very prestigious job in Hollywood?
It was a wonderful job. We had a great schedule. We had summers off, and it was just really a fun place when I first started there. It was a dream, and of course my family just loved that I was on TV. It was a really positive, wonderful experience initially.
But for you, you say the dream turned into a nightmare. You were fired. Why were you fired, Holly?
Well, it started in when Bob was sued by another model for sexual harassment, and at that time he came to me and explained that he was having talk shows and interviews set up for me to do, and that I was to say certain things. Specifically, I was to say that this other model, Diane Parkinson, was lying and that she was a liar, and that he would never do those things. And I just was not comfortable. I found the whole situation unpleasant and tacky, and didn't want to be associated with it, yes. And that was kind of the beginning of the end for me. And it went on, and later he asked me to recall his firing of a director differently than I recalled it. And I couldn't do it. And eventually he fired me, and he couldn't very well say, well, gee, I'm going to fire her because she refused to perjure herself for me. So he used a recent weight gain that I had experienced on a prescription medication as the reason. Now, I have to make a disclaimer here. That was 10 years ago, Ann, and 30 pounds ago.
Because a lot has happened between then and now.
Oh,
you
yes.
issued a press release saying that you were told to leave because of your weight, and we have a picture of you at that time. I think just showed it, and you don't look like you have a weight problem at all. I know that there were a lot of letters to the Barker production company, and you were countersued. He basically sued you.
He sued me
for slander and defamation of character, which he ultimately lost.
Yes.
This case. How long were you battling this in court? I mean, you just settled, what, last week?
Just last week. Well, the check just cleared the bank.
So 10 years, you're saying?
Yes. And but it was interesting because this was the first time in Price is Right history that Bob Barker had received such a tremendous amount of angry mail when it became public that I was fired because of this weight. And so he came out and he denied it. He said that I was lying, that weight was never mentioned, although this is what he had given me the reason for my firing. And he turned around and sued me for slander.
Barker's legal team says that Mr. Barker did not want to settle, but the production company was anxious to have the case over with, so they claim that Barker didn't pay a dime out of his own pocket. Meantime, you went bankrupt, you lost your home, you were living out of a car. So, is this a victory for you? Oh,
it's huge, Ann. It's huge. Someone sent me a list of all the official responses every time Mr. Barker loses a lawsuit. Now, you have to remember, Ann, since he fired me, he's been sued by 6 women, most for sexual harassment, all for wrongful termination, and the 2 most recent were filed by African American women for racial discrimination.
But here's the thing. You suffered a great deal by continuing to pursue this lawsuit. In other words, why, after all of this, you say this is a victory after 10 years of battling and all that you've gone through? Why are you speaking out now? Why is this not over?
Because people, as you know, the laws are changing constantly and being revised and rewritten, and people need to understand that in the workplace you cannot be forced to do anything illegal, such as lie for your boss or suffer sexual harassment or racial discrimination or discrimination of any kind. People need to understand that we have rights and they have recourse.
And your recourse was through the courts, and there was a huge settlement I understand you received.
Yes.
Huge settlement. And
Big.
Big. You want to tell us how much?
No.
Come on.
Well,
Millions?
Millions, yes, millions.
And some of that money, you say, is going to be used for some good.
Actually, I'm setting up a foundation. There's a flaw in our otherwise great judicial system that allows us, if you have a great lawsuit, all the testimony, all the evidence you need, but you're up against a very powerful individual or a wealthy corporation, it allows the bad guy to literally just drag the little person through the courts for years until they break
So you're going to use some of this money to set up something to help,
Absolutely.
help the little guy.
Absolutely.
Holly Hallstrom, thanks so much this morning.
Thank you, Anne.
I hope